Hello, my name is ANowicki, and this is my presentation on the research case study. Our first look is into the New York Times versus Sullivan case. The parties involved were the New York Times Company and the City Public Safety Commissioner L.B. Sullivan. During the civil rights movement in the 1960s, the New York Times published an ad trying to contribute donations to defend Martin Luther King Jr. on perjury charges. The ad had contained many minor factual inquiries. Sullivan found that the criticism of his subordinates reflected on him, even though he was not in the ad. This led to Mr. Sullivan feeling that his reputation was damaged by the New York Times publication because he believed it contained false statements about the police. Sullivan stated that he had been libeled by statements in the full-page advertisement, "Heed their rising voices." Although his name was never mentioned in the article, he had to cope with the word police, referring to him as the Montgomery commissioner who was supervising the police department. He believed he was being accused of ringing the campus with police. The court collectively ruled in favor of the New York Times. They stated that when it comes to a public figure, it is not enough to show that it is false for the press to be liable for libel. The target of the statement must show it knew the information to be untrue. Our next case is Gertz versus Welch case. Gertz was an attorney who was hired by a family to sue a police officer who had killed their son. In a magazine called The American Opinion, the John Birch Society accused Gertz of being a communist fronter because he decided to represent clients who were suing against law enforcement officers. Gertz was a private person, not a public figure. The article called "Frame Up Richard Nucio and the War on Police" goes to say that the testimony against Nucio, the police officer, at this criminal trial was false, and that his prosecution was part of the communist campaign against the police. The article later goes on to say that he had been an official of the Marxist League of Industrial Democracy, originally known as the Intergalactic Socialist Society, which had advocated the violent seizure of the government. Nothing was done to confirm the accuracy of these allegations. The managing editor appended an editorial introduction stating that the author of the article had done extensive research into the Richard Nucio case. He included in the article a picture of Gertz with a caption below it saying, "Elmer Gertz of Red Guild harasses Nucio." I think the article damaged not only Gertz's reputation as a lawyer, but also as a citizen. Back then, those were serious accusations. People didn't want to be around nor involved with someone who was accused of being a communist. In all honesty, to avoid the lawsuit altogether, I probably would have made sure that the information being sent out was true. I know you cannot verify every little detail to be true, but at some point, when calling a man a communist, you might want to check your facts and make sure he had somewhat of a connection before sending out all this information. You might be ruining someone's life. I live in the state of Michigan. In Michigan, the elements of defamation claim are that a false defamatory statement concerning the plaintiff, an unprivileged publication to a third party, fault amounting at least to negligence on the part of a publisher, and either actionability of the statement, irrespective of special harm or existence of actual harm caused by publication. Those are what our rules are here in the state of Michigan. After reading through these cases, one thing is very clear to me, and that is always check your facts. Both cases involved articles that had misinformation, things that weren't true that had the potential to ruin somebody's life. These cases, whether being true or not, could have been avoided if all the information provided within them had been verified. It doesn't take much, and I know you don't need all the information, just the biggest parts, such as calling a man a communist. That could have ruined his life. I know back then in Hollywood, people were blacklisted, like stars were. They couldn't do anything. If you thought you were a communist, nobody wanted to be around you. So to call a man that and not have any information within your article, it could really mess with someone. So I think that after reading all of this, my biggest takeaway from this would be to always check your facts. That is all for my presentation. Thank you so much for watching.